Okay, so A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi zidni ilma, Rabbi irzuqni ilma. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'a wa arina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinaba. Wa tawakkal ala wa kafa billahi wakila. And for some reason, I want to recite Surah Doha before we begin. And I'm pretty sure it's not for some reason, it's a very particular reason. So, but Doha. وَاللَّيْلَ إِذَا سَجَى مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى وَلَلْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى وَلَسَوْفَ يُؤْتِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى. أَلَمْ يَجِدْكَ يَتِيمًا فَآوَى وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًّا فَهَدَى وَوَجَدَكَ عَائِلًا فَأَغْنَى فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. We'll start with Kalma Shahadat then, I guess, in terms of fear, because we are asked to stand as witness. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, to the Wahdiyat of Allah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. I stand witness to who the last prophet is, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we are asked to stand witness. But our Allah is a beautiful creator, and he will never ask us to do something that he does not return to us trillion-fold and multi-billion trillion-fold. Because his promise to us is that he is a shahid, that he stands witness over us. Before we are asked to stand witness to his wahdiyat and to his prophet, to his beloved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he tells us that he stands witness over us. And to stand witness is a place of extreme responsibility. I'm going to speak of it from his perspective. It's a place of extreme responsibility. When he says, I stand witness over you, and relate it with the person on the witness in the witness stand, who is expected to speak from a place of being responsible for the life and death of another individual. That's what a witness is called to do. The witness is not just called to show up and sit in the witness stand. Look at the role of a witness. The witness is asked to take absolute full, in a human perspective, absolute full responsibility of the person whose life and death depends on his or her testimony, depends on the witness's testimony. And Allah Ta'ala says, I stand witness over you, a shahid. I stand witness over you. And the role that he's assigning to himself for us first, is that I am responsible. I am taking the responsibility for guiding you. And I'm also taking the responsibility, guiding you because that's the life part. And I'm also taking the responsibility of doing my best to keep you away from going astray, which is why I'm going to be surrounding you with many, many, many more things that you actually need to keep nudging you back, It's like being in that inflatable Joyland space, where every time you bump into a wall, that wall bumps back at you to kind of throw you off from the road that you should not be walking on. It feels like that. So that's the shahid. That's Allah Ta'ala saying that I'm going to stand witness over you. I am standing witness over you. I am acting as your protector, and I'm taking absolutely and full responsibility for you. And what we are asked to do in return, subhanallah, is to stand witness over the fact that there is no God but Allah. And there is one prophet, Muhammad, who's the last prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and all the prophets who came before us. So that's the prospect, and that's the concept of being a witness. But here's the thing. We live in a chaotic universe, in chaotic life. We don't live in a chaotic universe. We live in a chaotic life where it feels like we're constantly on a battlefield and things are being thrown at us. And we're constantly asked to either defend ourselves or to take one step forward, defend ourselves. We're constantly meant to be in action. That's what the outward world looks like. That's what the battlefield looks like. It's a constant place of action. And in this constant place of action, there is a constant state of fear. Because it's only when we are not at peace with our safety, with our place in the world, that we are constantly being asked to fight, right? Like the reason why we're on the battlefield and feel that if we're constantly have weapons in our hands and we have our shields up, this is how we're living our lives. Most of us are living our lives. It's coming from a state of fear. We are not safe. We're not going to get what we want. What we do have will be taken away. So we either need to protect it or we need to fight for it. Those are the two modes that we primarily operate in. And this palpitation of being, tak, 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 our heartbeats are rarely at peace. This palpitation of being, this fear, stems from the fact that unless I don't do something to prove that I can either defend my assets or fight for my assets, I will not be protected. I will not be safe. I have to do something to feel my own worthiness. I have to do something to keep myself safe. I have to do something to keep the ones that I love safe. I have to do something. And I'll go back to the moment of creation, where Allah Ta'ala had first asked the angels to bow to a creature that he was going to be creating. So the conversation in Quran is Allah Ta'ala is having a conversation with the angels before he has created Adam. And he said, because Allah Ta'ala says, I am going to be, I am creating a specimen called human from mitti. And angels had said, but they will go and spread strife and chaos in the world. Why would you create such a specimen? And Allah Ta'ala spoke of three components that he was going to be using, that he was using to create this specimen. And he said, I'm going to create him from mitti. I'm going to put in him a sense of balance. And I am going to give him from my own ruh. Three things, not just one, not just mitti. And look how beautifully aligned these three things are. Mitti at one end, if it was a spectrum, mitti at one end, my ruh in another, and in between, he speaks of the balance. I'm going to give him the sense of balance. Subhanallah. So mitti, my ruh, and I'm also going to give him three components, the sense of balance. And this sense of balance, by the way, is called tasfiyah in Islam. Tasfiyah. It's an inner balance. These three things Allah Ta'ala said I'm going to give to him. And then with these three things in mind, with these three components, Allah Ta'ala says, bow to this creation that I've created. So the three essential ingredients of us is mitti, Allah's ruh, and in between the both balance. And then here Allah Ta'ala said, bow to the creation that I've created. And visualize who he asked, the angels. And now look at, and I'm going to speak of why I'm saying the angels, because the concept of sajda in Quran is associated with something that is linked with incredible wonder. incredible awe, that we get so overwhelmed with the experience of seeing something that is magnificent that we can't help ourselves but fall down in sajda. That is the concept of sajda. He could have asked them to do many other things, recite a dua, hold their hands, whatever. But he said, fall down in sajda. So the concept of sajda is when you behold something of utter wonder, utter beauty, utter magnificence. Subhanallah. And then who is bowing down? The angels. Who is Allah Ta'ala asking to bow down to us? The angels. And angels are not something that we can stand witness or we can see visually with our eyes, but the angels have seen all the unseen things that we have not seen. So basically, angels are these exotic travelers of multiple dimensions and multiple cosmoses, and subhanallah, visualize the things that they would have stood witness to, the things that they would have seen, right? In them being those exotic travelers, these Bedouins of the cosmos, created by Allah. Subhanallah, imagine the wonders that they have stood witness to. And when they hear and all those wonders that they have stood witness to, all those wonders on one side, but when they hear of this magnificent creation of Allah, which has these three things, which nothing else in the universe has, it is truly the first of its kind. It is truly a magnificent creation. They cannot help themselves but fall down in such. They cannot disobey Allah Ta'ala because they feel the magnificence of this creation. So this is the creation of us, where the exotic travelers of unseen dimensions found us to be so awesome, to be so magnificent that they fell down in sajda by Allah Ta'ala's izn. They fell down in sajda. And Allah Ta'ala said, I have honored. He uses this beautiful word, I have honored the sons of Adam. I have honored the sons of Adam, honored. It is because of this honor that the angels were asked to bow down, to fall down in sajda. And it is this honor that we are born with in this world. This beautiful, precious honor that's placed within us. But then this honor is within us and we show up in the battlefield, fighting for other kinds of honor, fighting for other kinds of validation. We have already received the validation. We have already received the honor from Allah Ta'ala. But because our eyes are not turned inward, and because our eyes seek the outward treasures and are constantly riveted, there's nothing wrong with seeking outward treasures. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be successful in this dunya. There's nothing wrong with wanting things of beauty and pleasure in this dunya that bring beauty and pleasure. But what do they bring beauty and pleasure to? If they only bring it to the body, if they only bring it to the eyes, if they only bring it to the ears, they are so temporary. And it is not, they don't sustain, they're not created to sustain themselves. They're not created to sustain, these kind of pleasures are not created to sustain themselves. So it's beautiful to search for pleasure, search for joy in this world, but towards what? Pleasure and joy for the heart, for the heart, for the qalb. Pleasure and joy for the qalb. And you'll notice that as we begin to make that to be our journey, that I'm seeking pleasure and joy for the qalb, life becomes very, very, very simple. Because the pleasure and joy of the qalb is basically the pleasure and joy of Allah. Imagine that instead of having 15 different masters to make happy, whether those masters look like our parents or our children or our partners or our bosses or our neighbors or our online communities, whatever those bosses look like, whatever those masters look like, that we're seeking the pleasure of and from, of our friends. Imagine if we could do away with all of that and instead just align ourselves to seeking the pleasure of one master. Is what I'm doing making my Allah? I will not use the word happy with me, but making him feel good about me, that he's or she is doing right by the honor that I've given them. Am I doing right? I feel like, yeah. Am I doing right by the honor that I've been gifted by Allah? And this practice asks us to not seek outward safety, but to build inward safety. Not seek outward validation, but to build inward validation. Not seek outside friendships, but to build an inside friendship. And isn't it beautiful that the root word for Islam is the giver of peace, but from the outside perspective? Do you know that? Within Islam, there is Iman. Islam is not complete without Iman. So Islam is the shield in the outside world. It's the shield of the outside world, but the shield of the inside world is Iman. And the root word of Iman is Aman, peace, salamati. And it's the same root word that is linked to the two beautiful names of Allah, which is Ya Momin, Ya Mohayyimann. Aman, the root words for both Ya Momin, Ya Mohayyimann, both the names of Allah are designed to build our inner resources of feeling safe on the inside. Over the past 2 weeks, I have had at least 2 conversations with 2 different souls about how they are not living in a safe space, physically safe space. Their homes are not safe spaces for them. They don't feel it. And the question they asked me was, whatever inner work that I'm doing, what use is it if I don't have a safe space to bring it into fruition, to put it into action? And so what they're saying is there's a gap between the inner work that I'm doing and the outer world that I'm living in. There's a gap here. And in their view, rightfully so, they don't know how to bridge that gap, or if that gap would ever be bridged, or if there's even a connection between inner healing and outside healing, between inner safety and outside safety. And safety is a big word, huh? Because safety means absence of fear. Absence of fear. And how many of us have felt it, perhaps in moments snatched from this or that, but how many of us have been able to feel it consistently, this absence of fear? And yes, we automatically relate it to the outside world. Am I feeling safe in my home? Am I feeling safe in my relationship? Am I feeling safe in my workspace? Am I feeling safe on the road? Usually safety is associated with the outside world. But what Allah Ta'ala is asking us to do is practice the inner resources of building inner safety, which is Iman, which can only be brought through with Iman. Islam is the manifest form of safety on the outside world. It draws a circle around you. It draws a very strong boundary around you. And that's why many Muslims choose to make themselves visually look Muslims, especially when they're living in multicultural societies. Because being a Muslim means that I have a very strong boundary around me, personal boundary, ethical boundary, value-driven boundary, behavioral boundary that you must not cross. That's the outward look of Islam. But that boundary cannot be held in a sustained, strong way until we don't build the inner boundary, which is Iman. And it feels counterproductive, but it is not, I promise you. Especially when we are not feeling safe in the outside world, what we are asked to do is build the safety in our inside world, which is Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann. Not just the invocations of these names, but look at how powerful these names are. And I'll start off with Ya Mohayyimann, because Ya Mohayyimann is a trustworthy guardian. And in this world, as an analogy, it is translated as somebody, for example, if you're standing in front of your home and there is an enemy coming from in front of you, towards you, to take something away, to harm you in any way, there is a guard who plants themselves between you and them. Subhanallah, that is Ya Mohayyimann. A guard who plants themselves, an absolute like you go through me. That is Ya Mohayyimann. A guard who doesn't just watch over you, the English who places themselves between you and the world. Subhanallah, between you and the world. And traditionally, we associate that with our world ke walis, right? Our fathers, our husbands, our brothers, they are as women. Those are the wali for us as women who are meant to stand guard over you. But they are such flawed walis because they bring so many of their own trauma, so many of their own broken, so much of their own brokenness कि अगर हम लोग उनको विजुलाइज करें कि ये हमें प्रोटेक्ट करेंगे. Because we feel, when do we feel the most fear? When we don't have somebody watching over us, right? Somebody supporting us. But now the people that we're expecting to support us, visualize them कि अगर आप अपने घर के सामने खड़े हो और सामने से कोई एनिमी आ रहे हैं, तो ये जो आपके सामने जो गार्डियन खड़ा हुआ है ऑलरेडी, वो जो बुलेट होल वाले प्रैक्टिस करने वाली शील्ड्स होती है ना, जिसमें बहुत ज्यादा बुलेट होल्स होते हैं, तो वो बहुत ही, दे स्टैंडिंग हियर as a practice board, bullet hold, through which any kind of arrows, anything can pass by. So many holes in that particular shield of the wali that we're expecting things from. And so, yes, they have let us down, or they have not done their part. That's what our ego, our mind tells them. It's true also. I'm not saying it, we're making this up. They've not done their role. But here's the thing, they themselves are also not perfect walis. They themselves are not perfect guards. They're doing the best they can. They can't help, like they can help it, but they're not in awareness of the fact that we're bullet-ridden bodies के साथ खड़े हुए हैं हमारे सामने. और उन bullet-ridden bodies में से everything comes through. Everything comes through. And we especially feel that when we lose, and may Allah Ta'ala bless all the people that we love, and may Allah Ta'ala keep them in His amana and in love and safety and security and happiness and health. Ameen. But we especially feel that when we lose our fathers or our husbands or our brothers as women, and especially when we lose our fathers in any, or mothers for men in any way, we feel like there's a guardianship that's been taken away from us. It even says that in our ID cards, huh? Your guardian, who's your guardian? We have one guardian, Ya Mohayyimann, and what a perfect, beautiful guardian he is. Because Ya Mohayyimann says that he is the ultimate trustworthy guardian. But look at another aspect of Ya Mohayyimann. Not only is he the guard, another aspect of Ya Mohayyimann, Al Mohayyimann, is who also acts as your nurse. and as your caretaker. Can you feel it? A beautiful, perfect balance of masculine and feminine energy in the guardianship. A guard who is fully equipped to take care of you, to keep you safe, to keep you protected, with a sense of nourishment, with a sense of caretaking, with a sense of compassion, masculine and feminine. Ya Mohayyimann, subhanallah, such a powerful name of Allah, such a powerful invocation, because it is not hardcore guardianship only. It is guardianship with compassion. It is guardianship as a nurse. It's guardianship as a caretaker. It is that, Ya Mohayyimann. Especially used to invoke for people who have led traumatic lives and led traumatic childhoods, because the sense of fear, the sense that this world is not a safe space, can start and does start for some of us from the wombs of our mothers. The sense of not feeling safe sometimes starts from the wombs of our mothers, when our mothers have been in abusive marriages, when our mothers and our fathers have gone through a time of lack where they did not have enough resources, physical, financial resources, to bring to the womb enough nourishment in terms of food and water and shelter. There's a constant self of, I have been thrown out into the world from the womb. Subhanallah. I've been thrown out into the world and I'm unprotected. मैं नहत्ते हाथ खड़ी हूँ इस दुनिया में. And I know it, most of us on the call have felt it. I have no one. I'm going to have to do this alone. I'm going to have to do this alone. And the terror that descends upon us, subhanallah, the terror that descends upon us. Not only am I going to have to do this alone for myself, I'm going to have to do this alone for my children. I'm going to have to do this alone. Subhanallah. In those moments, Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann, in those moments. So Allah, if my inner shield, because if I'm feeling that way, that means my inner shield is left chalni by the bullets of the world. My shield is left chalni. And so Allah, Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann, think of it as a rafu karne wala. जो आप अपने वोल की चीजें और जो कॉटन की चीजें रफू वाले को भेजते हो ना, जिसमें छलनी 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 घोल होल होल हुए में, और वो कितनी खूबसूरती से बैठ के वो रफू करते हैं वो सुराख. सुभान अल्लाह. या मोमिन या मोहय्यमन इज वो रफू कर, ये उनका इन्विकेशन ऑफ द जिक्र in our awareness, from a sense of कि मैं किसके साथ राब्ता कर रही हूँ. When I say Ya Mohayyimann, who am I reaching out to? Who am I connecting? Whose frequency? Because reaching out to also feels incomplete. Reaching out को मतलब है कि मैंने उनको कॉल किया, वो कॉल उठाएं या ना उठाएं, या वो वॉइस मेल पे चली गई. मैंने उनको रीच आउट तो किया था, बट वो वॉइस मेल पे चली गई, नंबर बिजी मिल रहा था. That's what reach out feels like. Yeah, when we invoke the name of Allah, we are not reaching out. We are immediately connecting. We are immediately connecting to an existing frequency of Allah that is designed to give you what you're connecting to Him for. And so in this case, Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann, you're connecting to Him for, Ya Allah, मेरे सीने को जो इस वक्त छलनी हुआ है, उसको आके रफू करो. क्योंकि इसके अंदर से, you see the छलनी, a bullet-ridden soul or a bullet-ridden qalb is vulnerable from both ways. Vulnerable because अंदर की सारी, you're constantly living in a sense of feeling unsafe and in sense of fear. मुझसे जो मेरे पास जो है वो बाहर निकल के गिर जाएगा, because it's bullet-ridden, it has holes in it. But you're also extremely vulnerable to outside forces which can come in and pitch a tent in your qalb. Outside forces which can come in terms of influences, in terms of harmful choices, in terms of harmful people who misguide you, lead you astray, like because you're so deeply vulnerable in this moment, because you will do anything to help you feel safe again. And it is this moment of extreme vulnerability that all predators prey upon, right? All predators, whether it is those who lead us astray in the human form, or influences or suggestions or thoughts or vasvasa, which is the ultimate goal of Iblis, the ultimate power of Iblis, to then drip into you. Because a bullet-ridden qalb is a vulnerable qalb. And the bullet-ridden qalb is mended by the ultimate mender, the ultimate guardian, who knows how to, because a good soldier knows how to mend his or her own socks, knows how to keep their backpack, their resources fully nourished. He is that guard. He is that guard who knows exactly how to mend it for you. And subhanallah, to that part of how a bullet-ridden qalb makes us extremely vulnerable to harmful, lower dimensional, lower frequency influences from the outside. Subhanallah, look at what Iblis had said at the time of the sajda, in the moment of our creation. So Allah Ta'ala says to everybody, and we're assuming rightfully so, because he was a part of the angels, ki I'm creating this creation out of three components: mitti, balance, and my ruh. And the only objection, the only part that Iblis brought out was, oh, you're creating it from mitti, but I'm created from fire. He did not even count the fact that there is a balance and is Allah's ruh in it. Because you know why? If he had, and that was done deliberately, right? This process of omission is done deliberately. Because if you acknowledge that this mitti has balance and has Allah's ruh, then this mitti is the most worthy mitti ever created in the history and ever will be created in the history and the future of the cosmos, the most worthy mitti. But Iblis is like, I'm going to focus on his mitti part and make him feel worthless. You see? Because if you only focus on the mitti se to जानवर भी बने हैं, मिट्टी से तो 10,000 चीजें बनी हैं. What makes this mitti special? What makes this mitti worthy? What makes it worthy is the ruh of Allah. What makes it worthy is this beautiful balance that we've been gifted with. And so Iblis's, the place of vulnerability through which Vasvasa enters is, you're not worthy. You're not worthy of feeling safe. You're not worthy of being taken care of. You're not worthy of receiving things that you desire. You're just not worthy. You're not worthy because your friends are betraying you. You're not worthy because your parents do not like you. They might love you, but they don't like you. You're not worthy because your partner is abusing you. You're just not worthy. You're just worth this. This is the place of vulnerability where Vasvasa enters. And Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann helps us mend those holes. Helps us mend them in a beautiful way where we begin to plug back to the guard who also is our nurse. First, the one who will first mend the holes in us beautifully and with love and with detail. And then he will stand guard over us. The feminine and the masculine within Ya Mohayyimann. And I feel I may have shared this before, but at the time that I wanted to connect to, which was just a few months ago, I wanted to connect to this quality of the feminine nature of Allah and the masculine nature of Allah in one. Ya Mohayyimann, as a visualization for me, feels like कि मैं एक छोटी सी बच्ची हूँ जिसे दूध पीना है, उसे भूख लगी है, और मैं अपनी माँ के पास जाती हूँ, in this case being Allah Ta'ala. And Ya Mohayyimann, in his feminine energy aspect, feeds me first. और फिर मुझे वहीं पे छोड़ के नहीं चले जाते, बिकॉज मुझे खाली, अब मैं उनके पास जा रही हूँ दूध के लिए, बट मुझे खाली अपनी भूख नहीं खत्म करनी है. I need to be taken care of right now. So वो मुझे, he feeds me first. in his feminine space. And then वो मुझे वहीं छोड़ के उठ के नहीं चले जाते अपना काम करने के लिए, अपनी गोद में लेके he's walking towards a beautiful tree, and he takes off a fruit or whatever, and I'm perched on his side. I'm perched on his side, and he gives me that. So little by little, I am understanding what it feels like to be nourished by Momin Ya Mohayyimann. So I may not have had an experience of what nourishment feels like from my actual parents, from my partnerships, from my relationships, from my this deep, deep, deep nourishment of the qalb, which is not limited to the body. So that I go to him, I invoke Ya Mohayyimann, and he makes himself manifest by feeding, by being my nurse, by taking care of me. And then Ya Mohayyimann as a guard, okay, now that I feel well enough, now that I feel full enough and healthy enough, help me create something of beauty. Help me experience life from a beautiful way. And that aspect through Ya Mohayyimann, again, that you plug into, that you tune into, is the same Allah Ta'ala who's sitting on a horse. And I've never ridden a horse. And he, again, I'm a little girl, and he puts out his hand. He's like, come, put your hand in me and come in mine and come, get on the horse. We'll go traveling. And I was like, I'm afraid of the horse. I don't want to step. And what this actually feels like in my daily life is I'm afraid to do new things. I'm afraid to shift to new places. I'm afraid to try new things. I'm comfortable where I am. I've never ridden a horse, but Allah Ta'ala says, trust me. So it's the same Allah Ta'ala who's fed me. So now I do trust him. And so I put my hand in his, and he puts me on the horse. And very gently, because it is my first time riding the horse, he makes the horse trot and takes me to see the wonders of the world. This is what the visualization of Ya Mohayyimann feels like for me. And so when we invoke the names of Allah, it is never just an invocation, because as you invoke it in a rhythm, as you invoke them in a continuation, as you invoke them to activate a frequency, Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann, Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann, and you invoke it consistently and consistently, the frequency begins to make itself manifest for you. You begin to experience the names of Allah. Subhanallah. Because through your continuous practice, Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann, any other zikr of Allah that you're doing, your intention is, I want to dissolve and alchemize this fear, this constant fear that I'm living with. Help me alchemize it. You start reciting Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann. You do it for 1 week. You do it for 2 weeks. You do it for 3 weeks. And the 4th week, somehow it begins to taste sweeter on your tongue. What does it mean? That means that the zikr is now dissolving in your being. Now it's going to make itself, it's like a cat that's going to take a little bit of time to get, it's going to take its time getting used to the new owners. So the zikr is being invoked by you. The zikr is a beautiful constant frequency, but now it's getting used to being made manifest in your body. So it's going to taste a little sweeter. Subhanallah. And then it's going to help you gently over a few weeks or a few days. It's going to help your heartbeat slow down. And then as you begin to live with the zikr more and more, these visualizations will come up for you. Depending on who you are as a soul, they may look very different. But we are, with the consistent invocation of Allah's name, made to travel in the frequencies are not only to be recited, frequencies are to be tuned into and to be felt and to be visualized and to be experienced. You can tune into that frequency. Each name of Allah is a complete universe. And each universe of Allah has multiple doors that we can enter it through, the multiple doors being the experiences. So my door of experiencing Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann is through this visualization that I spoke of, जहाँ पे पहले मैं अपने आप को दूध पिलवाती हूँ अल्लाह ताला से, उनसे प्यार करवाती हूँ, not सिर्फ प्यार, he just literally takes care of me so that I'm healthy, and then I travel with him. So that's my door through which I experience Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann. All of us, and each frequency has, if there are 8 billion souls right now, and all the souls that you ever created have that many doors only for Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann, or only for Ya Mohayyimann. That many doors that we can enter through to experience it completely. You see, it is never, zikr of Allah is never just with the tongue. with the consistent zikr of Allah, it seeps into our body such that we begin to live it, such that we're going to experience, such that we begin to experience the universe of that zikr. It's like going to a new planet. We get so excited about how we're going to be going to Mars. We can go to the grandfather of Mars only through Ya Mohayyimann, through the zikr of Ya Mohayyimann, sitting right here, zero money spent, zero effort made, no contacts, just sit here and do the zikr. And any zikr of Allah is a complete, beautiful, complete universe. And you have your own unique door to enter through into that zikr and to experience it. And so over time, as we do Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann, we begin to experience this universe. What is the benefit of that? How is it alchemizing fear in the outside world? The more we are experiencing the zikr here, the more detached, there's no other English word, that the more detached we begin to get from how safe or unsafe we're feeling in the world. The more, and I mean, हमें एक जगह से ऐसी ग़ज़ा मिल रही है कि जिस जगह से ग़ज़ा नहीं मिल रही, our attention does not go to that place more, or that place refuses to, that place begins to affect us less. Because remember, fear, or the instigator of fear, if that's a human being. So एक इंसान है जो आपके अंदर fear invoke कर रहा है, और एक frequency of fear है, दो चीजें, right? Both of them, that इंसान is also a frequency and that fear is also a frequency. And when it meets the frequency of fear within us, the circuit is complete. Through the zikr of Allah, we're breaking the circuit. That's what we're doing. We are neutralizing the frequency of fear within ourselves. Or then what it looks like is कि अगर सामने से एक frequency of fear आ रही है, which is a light wave, it's not finding a connection to connect to with us. हम अभी भी वहीं खड़े हैं, वो frequency of fear भी आ रही है, पर हमने अपना circuit बीच में, उसमें से हमने उनका circuit काट दिया, हमने अपने आप को उसमें से disconnect कर लिया, because हमें यहाँ से सारी ग़ज़ा मिल रही है. So this frequency of fear that's coming to you from in front of you will stay here for a while. But then, as it's true for all frequency and as it's true in all physics, it needs a circuit to run in, it'll just dissipate. Either that person, what that looks like, it is either your sense of fear will go away or that person will go away. And the moment that person or your sense of fear, either thing goes away, the whole situation shifts. You see the alchemy here, it's a physical, it's like, it's physics, it's science. It really is science. We are feeling fear because we are resonating with the frequency of fear. The moment we stop feeling fear, we stop our resonance with the frequency of fear, and the frequency of fear dies down like a sukhi branch. And the situation shifts. And I've lived it. This is not conceptual theoretical work here. I've lived it. From having felt a deep sense of unsafety in my own home, through my own caregivers, physical, emotional, sexual, to in every relationship I've ever had, and in every job, funnily enough, I've ever had. All have been, mashallah, unsafe spaces for me, all of them. In the physical world, I did not have a single safe space to hide in. They were all unsafe. They were all unsafe. But with the rahmat of Allah and with the fazl of Allah, when you begin to stand guard over your iman, over your qalb, then the one who has promised to stand guard over you makes himself so deeply manifest कि वो चीजें खत्म हो जाती हैं, वो घर चेंज हो जाते हैं, वो कंट्रीज चेंज हो जाती, वो जॉब प्लेसेस चेंज हो जाते, वो बॉसेस खत्म हो जाते हैं, सब कुछ शिफ्ट हो जाता है, सब कुछ शिफ्ट. Why? Because you are not lending your frequency of fear to the frequency of fear. Subhanallah. And Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann enables us to do that. Because now our qalb with Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann, with the practice of it, with the experience of it, will not remain bullet ridden anymore. हाँ, उसके ऊपर पेवंत लगे हुए हैं, नजर आ रहा है कि उस पर रफू हुआ हुआ है. That's the most beautiful thing in Allah's kingdom. He loves those. Subhanallah. Like again, my teacher keeps coming back to me when I used to go and meet him and I'd sit with him and talk. Hear him. I remember he once said उनके बैठे हुए थे वो, और उन्होंने कुर्ता पहना था और उस कुर्ते में एक दो होल्स थे. And he's a very well put together individual. Very well matlab, not in the way that we feel, but clean, immaculate, white, starched things, but with holes in his on the daman of his kameez. And I said, Haji Sahab, he just looked, like he saw me looking at it. I didn't say anything. He saw me looking at it and he said, इस झोली में सुराख जरूर है, बट ये झोली जो है ये मजबूत बहुत है. तो what he's saying is कि इस आउटर सुराख जो आप नजर आ रहा है उस पे ना जाओ, मेरा अंदर जो है ना वो, उसके अंदर आपको कोई सुराख नजर नहीं आएगा. And that only can happen when we practice associating safety, worthiness, love, validation, everything here on the inside. Keeping it in our awareness कि हमारे ऊपर शाहिद कौन है. When I have said Ashhadu an la ilaha, so he has also said Ash-Shahid, Ya Mohayyimann, Ya Momin. अल्लाह ताला ने ये कहा है मुझे. तो जब मैंने ये कहा है तो उन्होंने भी मुझे कुछ कहा. तो मेरा विटनेस इस वक्त कौन है? अगर मैं अपने, if I'm showing up for work and I'm tired because my daughter's not slept the whole night and I'm tired of like taking care of the house and all the things which are not working out, and I'm a single mother and I've shown up and I'm not feeling good. And there is nobody who knows this. My mother doesn't know it. My sister doesn't know it. No, my boss definitely doesn't know it. And they're just like nobody. Who is a witness to my struggles? And I hear us like, मैं देख रहा हूँ बेटा. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you. I stand witness over your struggles. I stand. He said, Subhanallah, एक मोमेंट का तो एक सर दर्द. He stands witness over the headache that we have. Any pinprick of a pain that we go through, he stands witness over it. And so in moments when we don't feel validated, we don't feel honored, there is one who is honoring us. When we don't feel safe, there's one who's made it his job to keep us safe. Invoke him through that name, Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann. When we feel like we will lose everything, which is the waswasa, which is the shadow that we live in, कि एक तो कुछ है नहीं, मुझे इतना कुछ चाहिए वो है नहीं, और जो है वो भी छिन जाएगा, तो मैं फटाफट हाथ पैर मार लूं, कुछ कर लूं. Plug back to the one who has promised that he will not only stand over you, protect you, but also Ya Mohayyimann is going to take care of you, nurse you. He's your caretaker, Ya Mohayyimann. So in every instance when you said, कौन है मेरा, कौन मुझे सेफ रखेगा, कौन मुझे कुछ देगा, कौन मेरे साथ रहेगा, या मुहैयमन यार. और जब आप अकेले बैठ के रो रहे होते हो या रात को आपको खौफ से नींद नहीं आ रही होती, अपने बच्चों के फ्यूचर के बारे में सोच के, अपने फ्यूचर के बारे में सोच के, या कल का इवन सोच के, इमीडिएटली कल का सोच के, ऑल वैलिड चीजें कि भाई तनख्वाह खत्म हो गई है, घर कैसे चलाना है, बच्चों की फीस कैसे देनी है, उनका आगे क्या होगा, ये सब कुछ. It's so much that we're living in, right? On a daily basis and an hourly basis. हमारा दिमाग हर तरफ पे. Remind yourself, Ya Mohayyimann. Ya Mohayyimann. He's the one who's standing guard over this. He's the one who's going to take care of me. Ya Mohayyimann, Ya Momin. Because I am Momin. I am the one who is the invoker of peace. And therefore I call upon Ya Momin, Ya Mohayyimann. I call upon the one who gives me this peace in my heart, so that my My qalb, of course, but also my mind is not chalni. He is the mender of the holes within me, Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann. He will stand guard. He will take care of me. And it's a very Hayy, as we know from some of Allah's names that we've been doing so far, Hayy, the nature of Hayy is eternal. Hayy, forever, forever standing guard over me. And so if it helps speak to the fear, sometimes when some people ask, it's like, okay, I'm feeling this fear, or I'm getting this visual. How do I deal with this? What do I do? I was like, speak to it. Remind fear, because fear is a frequency. And if you're not too afraid of your fear, perhaps you can have a conversation of it. Perhaps you can make your fear become Muslim as well. Perhaps you can speak to your fear and say, Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann. Allah Ta'ala is there to take care of both of us. If fear is so big for you that itself manifests as an outside entity, as a big entity, then make it like sit it down in front of you, whatever shape or form that you can give it, sit it down in front of you and say, अच्छा आओ हम लोग इकट्ठे मिलके, मुझे भी बहुत डर लग रहा है, आप तो हो ही डर, हम दोनों मिलके ना या मोमिन या मोहम्मद सब डिसाइड करते हैं. It's not, with Allah's rule within us, the game is much bigger than these bodies. The potential is much, 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 much bigger than worldly achievements. And the ability that we have to experience multiple universes while not moving an inch. There's too much to experience as humans who have been honored so much that the creatures who have witnessed creations that we cannot fathom agreed with Allah Ta'ala, yeah, that is true magnificence. And they bowed. We are that creation. We are that creation. And so if people that we love tell us you're worth nothing, what have you done? Tum karti, tumne kiya hi kya hai? Or our inner voice, our inner critic tells us you're worth nothing. Go back to your moment of creation. And he says, I have honored you. Make only one shahid to your human journey. Make only one shahid to your human journey. Everything that you do. And usually it's used by the leaders of misplaced leaders to scare us. He is standing guard over you. He's watching you. Shahid, he's watching you. How beautiful. When nobody is watching me in my loneliness and in my terror and my fear, when nobody is a witness to my pain and to my heartache, there is one who is standing witness, and he's not a helpless witness. He is the creator of all universes. Look, what a witness to have in your witness box. What a witness to have in your witness box. What a witness to have in your witness box. So approach a shahid from a place of somebody who's there for you, watching you at all times. And Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann as the one who is mending the holes, feeding you, nourishing you, and standing guard in front of you. We don't need 15,000 relationships, one to do this, one to do that. We have one. A shahid, Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann. A shahid as a reminder, and Ya Momin Ya Mohayyimann as a mender of holes, and the one who stands guard between you and the rest of the world. Not just guard over you. Again, limited understanding, right? Not stands guard as a guard between you and the rest of the world. Subhanallah. Momin means, uska bhi root word is Aman as well. Let me build up. So Aman, contentment, the giver of, where Islam is the outward protection of peace. Imaan, which is the root word of Momin and Mohayyimann, both is the inward protection of contentment and security. And Al-Mohayyimann is the one who protects you, guards you, watches over your affairs, our lives. One who protects and guards, so beautiful, over every conversation. So for example, if you want to have a fearful conversation or a conversation which is an extremely difficult conversation, make him a witness over that conversation. so that you may be guided through that conversation, so that the other heart is more open to receiving. So Rabbi Shrah li Sidri is a beautiful dua, of course, but in the names of Allah, when you ask Allah Ta'ala, Ya Mohayyimann, to stand witness over my meeting, over my conversation, especially the ones laced with fear and difficulty, then because you have made him to be a witness, made him to be a one who is standing over and guarding that conversation, it will be beautifully divinely guided. Also, Ya Mohayyimann, the one who helps us guard our tongue and actions, such that they don't become harmful to ourselves, so such that they don't contribute to the chalniness, to the bullet-ridden state of our nafs. And so beautiful, Mohayyimann. One last thing, huh? Thank you, Maliha, for asking this beautiful question. Both Momin and Mohayyimann come from the root word Iman, right? Which is Aman, which is peace. And because the same peace is protected in Ya Mohayyimann, when we invoke, we say, Allah Ta'ala, protect my peace, right? And protect me. What needs protection? अगर हमारे पास कोई पुराना स्वेटर है और वो जल भी जाए, जिसको हमने फेंकने लगे थे, तो वो जल भी जाए, तो वो जरूरत नहीं है उसके, अभी लाइक वी नॉट एज इट डजंट नीड प्रोटेक्शन, राइट? हम लोग स्पेशल इंस्ट्रक्शंस देते हैं फॉर कपड़े टू बी आयरन, व्हिच वी आर डीपली लाइक वी फील हमने बहुत इन्वेस्ट किया उसके अंदर, वो दे आर वेरी प्रेशियस टू अस. So Ya Mohayyimann also reminds us of our worth, because when we are saying stand guard over us, Allah Ta'ala says, I stand guard over you. He is saying, my God, you are so infinitely worthy. You are so infinitely worthy. You so deserve to be protected. You so deserve to be taken care of. I'll do it, Allah Ta'ala is saying. So the deeply embedded worth that lies within the invocation of Ya Mohayyimann. Protect what? Ya Allah, stand guard over what? Over something that is deeply precious to you, over something that is deeply honored by you. What is that something? Me. Subhanallah. Hey Allah, the one that you deeply honor, the one who is deeply precious to you, is asking you for your protection. I was like, I'll do it, I'll do it. I'm here. Subhanallah. The kind of self-worthiness it brings out in you, because I deserve, you deserve to be protected. You deserve to be taken care of. You deserve to be nursed back to health. You deserve to be stood guard over. You deserve that entity who places themselves between you and the rest of the world. Say, ye meri hai. मुझसे होके जाएगा कोई इसके, और उनके साथ क्रिएटर ऑफ ऑल यूनिवर्स, उनके साथ, उनके थ्रू क्या उनके थ्रू कौन होके जाएगा? Subhanallah. Subhanallah. What a beautiful Allah, huh? What a beautiful Allah. So Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.